Ladies and gentlemen, are you ready to take a ride in the Ferris wheel show? Prepare yourself for some serious rock talk.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Prince of Darkness. Welcome once again to another fine episode of the Ferris Wheel. I'm one of your co-hosts, co-creators, and co-conspirators, Ferris Kennedy. And in a booth to the left of me, a man who used to play chess with Tom Snyder in the 80s and 90s in Central Park.
Dr. Ian Clark.
And in the booth across from us with our producer, Armando, a man who has many, many guest appearances on CBC's hit comedy, Kim's Convenience.
Stephen Wheeler.
Gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Wonderful. Again, thanks for the creative and accurate introduction.
Well, hey, this is when I come in. What's the assistant's name? Jennifer. She just hands me an envelope. Here you go, Mr. Kennedy. Thank you very much. I read it over.
Paid well for it too. So
yeah. So how is Tom? Well, he passed away, but how was it playing with Tom Snyder?
Tom was what can I say about? Everyone knows about Tom Snyder. He was an interesting cat, and he did wonderful interviews. People like John Lennon, Frank Zappa, and I suggest people go on YouTube and discover the Tom Snyder experience.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm happy to hear that. So, without further ado, we finally have the most anticipated show, in my mind.
Well, we've been asked for this through the emails and things.
It has. It's been, and it was very hard. Like I told Wheels and Clarky, that to do the drummer show, when we did that one, I was, firing them off the top of my head. Now, we're doing bassists. Well, it wasn't that easy to fire them off the top of your head. I can tell you that right now.
That's true.
So without any more slowness, Mr. Wheeler, go ahead and take it away with your top.
Tell us about bassists.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so the first one is completely unknown. Nobody's ever heard this name. Paul McCartney. Who's ever heard of him?
Never heard of him.
It rings a bell.
Exactly. So basically, McCartney, we can say, helped transform popular music into a creative, highly commercial art form. Because before the Beatles, you came in, you did a few 45s, and you disappeared for a long time. Basically, thanks to him, we've been seeing an art form in rock music come alive, go through maybe hard times and come back again. He's also one of the most popular solo performers of all time, even though he's a horrible solo performer in terms of stage presence.
That is actually true. He has no charisma. It's hard to explain. Ringo has more, which is really hard to explain.
Pete Best has the most.
That's not bad, yeah.
But that being said,
best of the Beatles.
Yeah.
That being said, though, he's the most popular solo performer of all time if we base it on both sales of his recordings and concert attendance.
More than Elton John?
More than Elton John.
Wow. Okay.
A quote from is "I don't work at being ordinary," which is
scrambled eggs.
Exactly.
I love my scrambled eggs.
So Paul took over the role of bassist in the Beatles after the original bassist left the group. Although he was reluctant to take on the role
to perform an art career. Sorry.
That being said, he was able to master the instrument and became one of the greatest bass guitar players of all time. At least on a popular level.
That's what he said anyway.
Exactly. So the next one is John Paul Jones, which is one of the founding...
He was a pope, wasn't he? No, that's John Paul Ringo. That's right.
He's a bunch of popes, actually, when you think about it. So John Paul Jones is one of the founding members of the legendary group Led Zeppelin.
Never heard of them.
Again, rings a bell.
The worst part of it is somebody probably will say one day, never heard of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, for a while, I remember the young generation, McCartney was a member of Wings.
You're serious?
I'm serious. There was a survey time.
That's a disturbing.
He was Wings.
Well, they didn't know the Beatles. That was the thing.
Oh, man, that's awful.
I know.
So before he joined the band, he was considered one of the best session bassist in England. If you look at old record credits, he played on tracks by Jeff Beck, Cat Stevens, and even Donovan.
And he played keyboards too.
Which goes to show how good he is.
Yeah, one of those all-around guys like Jimmy Page. They're really good session people.
And he was, for Lenny Kravitz's Are You Gonna Go My Way, he was the bassist on that one. And when I told you that, you're like, good, get him out of the house, let him do something.
Yeah, it's true. He's probably sitting there taking his blood pressure all day.
It was in the 90s, though. It was early 90s.
All right.
Yeah.
So the reason why some of you might not be familiar with his name is even though he helped form the band, which became probably one of the most powerful rock groups in history, he was actually very content in remaining in the background. That being said, like he is the backbone of the entire sound of Led Zeppelin, but he's not like a limelight kind of person necessarily.
No, he was kind of their Bill Wyman. He's one of those guys that just brought it all together.
And he's also known for being a session guy for film scores. That being said, they're not necessarily well-known films, so if you look at credits, you'll see his name in The Secret Adventures of Tum Tum or Scream for Help.
Again, it got him out of the house.
Exactly.
Didn't need the money.
So the next one is our Canadian content of the night, Geddy Lee.
I know that's probably the only bassist that's unless you would have went Mike Kroger, Chad's brother. I'm just saying.
Well, Gordon Lightfoot did a smoking bass for a while there. He did. And the Edmund Fitzgerald is one of the best bass songs ever written. The big chip they call Get Your Goonie. Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
So he's best known, of course, as the vocalist, bassist, and keyboard player for Rush.
Do you know you can look at their album and you can read it backwards and see God? Okay.
2112.
Lord.
That's what, remnants of our Prague show?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Sorry.
Of the show or what we smoked during the show?
Hey, listen, I know the hell you guys are on, man. I'm still on this tequila, so.
Yeah. Actually, I need more ice. Could you get that person, the shop assistant here, whoever she is? And I want cubes, not chip. Okay.
So, of course, Geddy Lee is famous or infamous for his voice, but also for his signature bass tones. He's actually been able to get 7 Grammy nominations out of it,
My God.
which is really rare for a bassist when you think about it.
Yeah.
He has the ability to trigger samples, play keys, step on a bass pedal, and sing vocal parts.
And still make dinner that night.
And still make dinner
Which is
that night.
incredible.
And he does this usually in very odd time signatures, which probably explains why a lot of people can't stand him. It's we're not necessarily used to that in rock. He's also one of the most prolific sellers of records in Canadian history. Rush has had gold and platinum records for years, and I think he's the third most prolific seller of consecutive gold and platinum records after the Beatles and the Rolling Stones on some selling charts.
The world is full of wonder, isn't it?
Can I just ask you something between you guys? Answer honestly. Who would win in a fight between Geddy Lee and Brian Adams?
A fight for what? An
Just
actual
a fight,
physical
yeah,
fight?
physical
Physical
fight.
Oh,
fight.
Brian Adams.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think he's a little scrapper, Adams. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to say that. Sorry.
But if it's a fight to destroy crystal glass, then it'd be Geddy Lee,
Yeah, good point.
because Brian cannot hit those high notes.
No, he can't. But they actually even claim that Brian Adams, if you Google top Canadian basses, he comes up,
I don't doubt it.
God.
which is weird.
Yeah, that's sad.
But Geddy Lee's the first one.
All right.
So the next one is Lemmy Kilmister.
Oh, let me.
Oh, poor Lenny.
God rest in soul, eh? God rest in soul.
R.I.P., yeah.
R.I.P.
So he's one of those guys. He's completely unforgettable. He was the bassist for the band Motorhead. And basically, every time they started a show, it was a really simple sentence, but it worked. We are Motorhead, and we play rock and roll. So it can't really get more basic than that.
No, I mean, he wasn't pretentious.
Not at all. There have
Although
been...
he did appear in that Yes album, Topographical Oceans. So...
He does look like the guy from Spinal Tap, too, by the way.
I think it probably
Nigel
might have based...
I think that's what they based their character on.
No, actually, I think Nigel was based on Jeff Beck. The resemblance is terrifying.
The one with the crazy-ass beard there? Or the...
No, I think Nigel doesn't have a beard, no. Oh, the guy you mean.
Yeah, in Spinal Tap.
No, I'm not sure what he was... Maybe he was based on Lemmy, yeah.
There have been few bassists who have been as iconic as he has been. His playing is basically still a reference for bass players today. The commercial success of Motorhead was mostly the late 70s, early 80s. And he was pretty much the only constant figure in the group during that golden era. In addition to Motorhead, he was also known to be a co-writer of Ozzy Osbourne and Lita Ford. And for some strange reason, he appeared in the TV show The Young Ones and several films.
Lita Ford, Runaways, keeps on coming up, eh?
Yeah, maybe we should do a show on them.
Yeah.
Invite them here.
So my next one might not necessarily be as well known in rock circles.
I know who he is.
That's because you have a great culture, man.
I saw this name. I knew who he is as soon as you said it. I thought it was the South African runner called the Blade Runner.
So the name is Jaco Pastorius.
I think it's Jaco. Is it
like
J?
Jaco and Dot? Kind of
Yeah,
situation?
I think it's Jaco Pastorius, not Oscar Pistorius, but Jaco Pastorius.
It's Oscar Peterson.
So, strangely enough, he became he started out as a drummer, but history has been forever changed because he had a wrist injury.
Maybe he became a Blade Runner? I mean, sorry.
So basically, he was forced to switch to bass, and thankfully for all of us, because frankly, he's amazing at it. He mastered the instrument and became obsessed with jazz fusion, which makes
He's a
him
very famous guy.
puts him on a blacklist of a lot of people just for the jazz fusion, though.
Yo, yeah, hate list number one. I mean,
But that
jazz
being said, though,
fusion's-
you have to love a guy who actually is quoted as saying, "A chimpanzee can learn what I do physically, but it goes way beyond that. When you play life."
Nice. That's like a Miles Davis thing.
So in the 70s, he was one of the most sought-after bassists. So basically, if you like Joni Mitchell, if you like Ian Hunter, if you like Weather Report, Herbie Hancock, or basically any of the big names of the 70s, you like him.
Yep.
And from 1980 to 84, he toured and recorded with his own band, Word of Mouth, that fluctuated in size from a large combo to a big band. Today, maybe not as well known. He's still touring nowadays as a solo act, but he's mostly known for his stuff from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
So the next name on our list is Roger Waters.
Never heard of this guy. He sounds familiar. I never heard of him though.
I think he was in the Beatles.
He was in this really small band called Pink Floyd.
The
Pink Floyd. Hello.
Hello. Where they have a flying pig.
Exactly. He's basically the driving force behind most of their, some would say better albums. Others would say their best-selling albums. It depends on which church you're a part of.
I have all those three, by the way.
So he's so he's the driving force behind Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall, and Wish You Were Here, which are basically the ones you really want in your collection. He's asserted a really heavy degree of creative control over Dark Side of the Moon, penning all of the lyrics, receiving music writing credits on all but 3 songs, and basically creating the concept. When he left Pink Floyd in 1985, he continued to create new works and capitalize on the popularity of his old band by staging the live revival of Dark Side of the Moon and The Wall in their entirities, and actually helped produce an opera based on The Wall, which I have yet to see, but I really am afraid of actually hearing.
And you'll never get that from the Division Bell. I can guarantee you that.
They made a movie of it too, with The Wall.
And that's where that Kingston cover is. That
Oh, there we go.
yeah,
Right.
that's where I saw it. That's it. See,
Bob Geldof. Yeah.
So my next name on my list is Carol Kay, part of the Wrecking Crew. She's a guitar and bass player to basically all the Stone Cold classics of American pop in the era of the 45s.
We
and
covered
even
her, didn't we? In Women in Rock.
we
for
did.
a
We
while.
did.
Actually, yes, we
That
did.
podcast we did.
So, like you said, she in that episode she was on Pet Sounds. You can hear her on Good Vibrations, Song of Innocence, Song of Experience, which is a funny loop there. Homeward Bound, Heroes and Villains. These boots are made for walking.
Ding, 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 ding.
That was a Jessica Simpson remake.
Oh God.
Who made it?
Jessica Simpson remade it.
Oh yeah, but she remade the video too.
It was very, very good.
It was an engrossing video.
Yeah, very nice.
If you watched it with the mute sound, yeah.
No, I like the song.
I like the song. I just don't like the song. The woman who sang it.
Just watch the video.
Just watch it.
The video.
What's wrong with you?
She was also on You've Lost That Love and Feeling, River Deep, and
Never
Mountain
close.
High.
What about Lynyrd Skynyrd featuring Leslie West?
And Carol Kay.
Carol Kay. That's why they never joined, because they want the rename.
She wanted her name.
So my next name is Tony Levin. He's been a prominent session musician since the 70s. He's appeared on over 500 albums, including albums by John Lennon, Cher, Lou Reed, Tom Waits, and Dire Straits. He also served a long stint in Peter Gabriel's band, using the opportunity to develop his Chapman stick technique and remaining one of the instrument's leading names. And you have to give props to a guy who can stand Peter Gabriel more than 5 years.
Yeah, a good point.
I like Peter Gabriel, though. I'll be honest. I don't mind his
He's an
solo
amazing
stuff.
artist, but apparently he is
Difficult.
Can we
man.
get him on the
Pain.
show? I wish I had that power, you know? Like the way Howard Stern says, I could get Andy Cohen here in 10 minutes. And sure enough, boom, 10 minutes later, Andy Cohen's on the show.
Well, he's probably in the green room when he says
I was going to
that.
say, it's Manhattan. It's hard to get there.
I could get Dr. Ian Clark on the show.
Oh,
yeah,
that's good, too.
maybe, but it's a small town here. I could Uber.
You die.
And my last one is a Geezer Butler.
You love this guy. This is like one of your favorite dudes.
Who doesn't like Geezer?
Because you're a Sabbath guy. That's why.
True.
Yeah.
Which shows my age.
Yes. A good ripe age of 72.
Exactly. Ironically, he is, by education, a rhythm guitarist. He was in some bands called Polka Tulk and Rare Breed. And, of course, went on to form with his mate, John, soon-to-be Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. Basically, ever since Sabbath, though, he went on to make a name for himself as one of the great lyricists. He's done a lot of bass work over the years, and he's actually responsible for a lot of innovations with his instrument. And he's one of the first bassists out there to use the wah pedal and also to downtune, which is, when you consider that what he did, like he created heavy metal more or less.
Yeah, down to do it. The deep, thick bottom end.
So that's my list.
Very good. Thank you.
That's a very nice list. Very good artists. I don't have any issues with any one of them.
No.
Wasn't too familiar with only...
Well, you,
Tony
you
Levin.
didn't know the McCartney name.
No, yeah, that one just kind of blew off my mind, you know. He was Wings?
It was in actually a band in the 70s called Wings, I remember.
Yeah, that's it.
Band on the run. Yeah.
I think that he's the guy who rode the coattails of Michael Jackson in the 80s, too.
He did a song with Jackson.
Didn't he do two?
No, he also did Say.
Say, yeah.
Oh, that's a great song. Right up there with Let It Be, you know.
Yeah, so, all right, well, Dr. Clark, why don't you go?
Okay, well, let's, we're probably going to go, I think it might, maybe not total chronology here, but I wanted to start with a guy most people have heard but never heard of. Sounds like a Zen. Bill Black. Bill Black, 1926 to 1965. And he was in a small trio with a singer named Elvis Presley. And he gave Presley the kind of the bottom end vibes for great rock and roll and songs like, oh, Let's Play House, Hound Dog, Heartbreak Hotel, Jailhouse Rock, That's All Right Mama, Mystery Train. And died young. And after Presley, he had the Bill Black Trio, which went on for years without him. Not a flashy guy, but just solid. And to prove that, I'm going to play a bit of Bill Black for you right now if I can. Let's see if we can play him in the studio. Can that come in through?
Oh,
This is
yeah.
Bill Black. As I said, not flashy, but steady. Thank you, Bill. That was Bill Black from actually the Bill Black Trio. Next on my list is a fellow named John Alec Entwistle, 1944 born, passed away in 2002. And he was with a band, I think called The Who. Maybe called, yeah. And I'm not quite sure about that. And you used to call him, Thunderfingers? I forget his nickname like that. The Ox, they called him. He was a fantastic bass player. Made a lot of noise because, Keith Moon, Roger Daltrey. There's only 3 guys playing instruments in the band filling arenas. They had no loops. They had not there's 3 guys, and so he played loud. And he was what they call a busy player. And as a special treat tonight, I'm going to play a part of the bass. This is Entwistle, a live performance of, I guess this won't get fooled again. Let's just take a listen to how busy he gets. Again, this is an isolated bass. And John Entwistle from The Who. He's not stopped plucking, as they say, following the chord progression. He's really adding some bottom end. Late, great John Entwistle. Next on the list is a guy named John Simon Asher Bruce. The word Jack Bruce, 1943 to 2014. Scottish, and best known for being one of the 3 guys in supergroup Cream, along with Ginger Baker and Eric Clapton. Always on the top 10, 20, whatever the lists are, of greatest bassists of all time. Very creative guy. Great singer, great songwriter. He wrote Cream's greatest hits. And I want to play a scrap of Jack Bruce in action. This is live. We call him from White Room.
Baba Booey!
Yeah.
Baba Booey!
Yeah.
Hit him with the high! Hit him with the high! Baba Booey!
No, that was not Jack Bruce. That was some interloper who ran through the studio naked and greased.
That was very crazy. Jesus. Who let that guy hit? I don't know.
But he was in a pair of adult Snuggies.
This has to be definitely they listen to the Stern Show because they got something going with this Baba Booey hit him with the hind.
We
type
have
of
a
thing.
former Stern employee here. That could be it. I'm not sure what's going on. That was terrifying.
The studio next to us is just laughing. There's 3 girls doing a top chart show and they're just bawling their.
Well, of course, they're probably terrifying.
He's wearing a Leaf jersey. What the hell?
Well, that's it for him, right? So much for the playoffs. And no, that wasn't anything to do with Jack Bruce. So please let me go on to my next entry here. A guy named William Earl Collins. You might know him as Bootsy Collins, born 1951. Bootsy Collins is so ridiculously funky. Have you ever seen him with his beautiful kind of funkadelic clothes? And he started with James Brown. And James Brown loved him. He fit in with James. He learned some of the tricks of showmanship. And then, of course, he went on to a Parliament Funkadelic. And he's kind of if the Jimi Hendrix of bass playing. He uses a lot of fuzz, a lot of strange effects. I'm going to play you probably his most well-known song. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but this is in the title. This is Bootsy Collins. I think the name of that song might be I'd Rather Be With You. For some reason, that comes to mind. No, that was Bootsy Collins. Next, Mark King. Mark Raymond King, born 1958. You know him from Level 42. Wow, what a great slap bass player. I mean, he's won all these awards. He just, nobody can come close with it. Well, a few people, but he is really the king of the slap bass. Let's take a listen to one of their big hits. And it's totally bass driven, this song. It's slap bass at its best. Here's Mark King. Mark King from Level 42. He has this thing where he puts all this tape around his thumb to protect it during concerts and during studio recordings. He said he didn't do it once, and he split his thumb open, so he learned the hard way. Speaking of slap bass, let's talk about Larry Graham, born 1946. Sly and the Family Stone's bass player. Basically, he invented a lot that was copied later. The whole funk style. Larry Graham goes way back to the mid-'60s with it. Let's take a listen to where the bass is more prominent, the particular Sly Stone song. Let's listen to the intro in this song. It carries the whole song. Then we had a visit there from Larry Graham, Sly and the Family.
Sounds like Macy Gray.
Who?
That singer. I only say goodbye.
Oh my God. That sounds like something from The Exorcist. Next on the list, James Jamerson, born James Lee Jamerson, 1936 to 1983. One of the most influential pop bassists of all time. A Motown session guy. You know, when people talk about great pop bassists, this guy's the gold standard. And I'm not going to go through all the awards, unfortunately, posthumously he won. But he is just so gifted. Let's take a listen to his contribution to a Marvin Gaye song. This is James Jamerson. Yeah, James Jamerson, Marvin Gaye, Motown. What a package. Boy, I mean, this is some of the greatest pop music ever put out, in my humble opinion. Next on the list, Jack Cassidy. John William Cassidy, born 1944. He was the bass player basically with Jefferson Airplane and later on a group called Hot Tuna. And he was on some of their biggest hits. Jefferson Airplane's biggest hits, and his bass helped define what they refer to as the San Francisco sound in the 1960s. And let's play something that's definitive from Jack Cassidy from that time. This is Jefferson Airplane, Jack Cassidy. There we go, Jack Cassidy. The bass makes that song. I mean, it's a great melody, and you can't beat, of course, Grace Slick singing it, but let's face it, it's a bass song. Next on my list is a guy called Donald Duck Dunn. Donald Dunn, 1941 to 2012, one of the great session musicians with Stax Records, mostly Booker T and the MGs. He played Otis Redding, he played with Sam and Dave, Rufus Thomas, Eddie Floyd, Albert King, Elvis Presley, and always voted at the top 20, 30 great bass players. I'm going to play you something he worked on. You might be familiar with this song. Let's see if I can find it. It's kind of familiar, maybe?
Green Onions.
Green Onions.
Booker T and the MGs.
Booker T and the MGs. Great. Great hit from, early 60s. And lastly, I'm going to talk about Rick Danko. Richard Clare Danko, 1943 to 1999. You know him as a member of the band, Robbie Robertson, the band. He was born in a place called Blaney, Ontario, which is near Simcoe County. Simcoe is west of Hamilton, for those who really want to know. And he left school really young. I think he's 14. He left school and playing in dance halls. His brothers were all musicians. He joined Ronnie Hawkins and the Hawks and Levon Helm. And eventually, who else? Robbie Robertson. And they went on to back Bob Dylan. And then they recorded 2 or 3 of the greatest rock albums ever put down on vinyl. And so why don't we listen to, let's see, some Rick Danko. And Rick's getting kind of funky on this with the bass. This is the band and Rick Danko. And that closes off my little session on bass players. I'm not saying they're the greatest bass players. Ask me tomorrow, it would be a different list. But as it stands now, I think they all contribute in a special way to the bands they were in and the songs they made.
That's one hell of an impressive list. There's a lot of songs there that I actually recognize, which
good.
is very nice and very, I guess, warm, welcoming. Very nice selection, Ian. I really like the Booker T and the MGs. That's a big surprise there. There's quite a few songs.
Great.
So moving on along, and last but not least, myself, Mr. Kennedy. I'm in the house. Yeah. The streaker was around here. That was kind of cool. So with me, I went a little bit different on my list. As you guys know, we are, different varieties. So I'm going to play you the beginning of one song here, and then we'll tell you who this is. So for those of you that are familiar with that, everyone knows that is Michael Balzeri, better known as Flea, founding member of the rock band Red Hot Chili Peppers. He's widely considered as one of the best bassists of all time. So Flea also appeared in such bands as What Is This, Fear, and Jane's Addiction. He has performed with rock supergroups Atoms for Peace, Antimask, Pigface, and Rocket Juice in the Moon. Also collaborated with the Mars Volta, Johnny Cash, Tom Waits, Alanis Morissette, and Young MC.
If you don't like him, all he needs to get some flea remover.
From flea removal, yeah. And he's also he performed live with Nirvana in '93. He was actually playing the trumpet.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, right? So he actually incorporates a lot of elements of funk. He's very known for his slap bass, also putting a sock around his junk. Basically, that's what he's known for.
He's a gifted man.
He's psychedelic, punk, and hard rock. 2009, Rolling Stone readers ranked Flea the second best bassist of all time, behind only one guy, John Entwistle. In 2012, he and the other members of Red Hot Chili Peppers were inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's been nicknamed Mike B. the Flea. That's what he was named as a kid. People want to know, well, how did Red Hot Chili Peppers come about? It was very simple. He went to Fairfax High School, and where he met Anthony Kiedis. After a brief confrontation, the two became friends. Kiedis recalled, "We were drawn to each other by the forces of mischief and love, and we became virtually inseparable. We were both social outcasts. We found each other and turned it out to be the longest lasting friendship of my life."
The Chili Peppers had an interesting slogan. You know what it was from the first album? Chili Peppers, hot going in, hot coming out.
They do have quite a few things, but it is something that they're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that is something definitely to be proud of. Flea was turned on to rock music by Hillel Slovak, and particularly punk rock by Anthony Kiedis. This is where he's got his influence from. Originally, he actually was a jazz trumpet player. He learned to play bass from Slovak, who shortly after asked him to be the bassist in his band called Anthem. Flea soon developed his own style and joined the group, but quit several months later in order to play for the punk rock outfit Fear. He then rejoined Slovak to form an intended one-off band, Tony Flo and the Miraculously Majestic Masters of Mayhem, along with Kiedis and Jack Irons, which then, on March 25th, 1983, official name changed from Tony Flo and the Miraculously Majestic Masters of Mayhem to Red Hot Chili Peppers. Flea is also the co-founder of Silver Slate Conservatory of Music, which is a non-profit music education organization, which was founded in 2001 for underprivileged children. And just so you know, Ian, he is going to be releasing his memoir later on this year called Acid for the Children, which in detail his private life to the formation of Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I think it's a short story, actually. It's 3 or 4 pages.
It is, 3 or 4 pages. So now
Large type.
the next bassist is going to be with this introduction right here.
I'm so happy 'cause today found my friends in my head. I'm so ugly, that's okay.
So for those of you that know, yes, it's Ferris Kennedy's favorite band, better known as Nirvana, and that is the founding member of the grunge group, Chris Novoselic, which was their creation in 1987. He was there all the way until the end of 1994. Being part of Nirvana, he achieved massive success, earning multiple gold and platinum awards and touring around the world at sold-out shows. After Nirvana disbanded following the death of Kurt Cobain in 1994, Novoselic formed Sweet 75 in the following year and Eyes Adrift in 2002. Releasing one album with each band from 2006 to 2009, he played in a punk rock band called Flipper, and in 2011 he contributed bass and accordion to the song I Should Have Known on the Foo Fighters studio album Wasting Light, along with playing bass guitar and accordion in his current band Giants in the Trees since June of 2017. Performance and recording with Foo Fighters, Grohl originally asked Novoselic to join Foo Fighters as a full-time band member. He declined, saying they would call it Nirvana 2. Fair enough. Novoselic's first experience with Foo Fighters was during the encore of their show on August 29th, 1997 at Memorial Stadium as part of the Bumper Shoot Festival, where he played bass for the band's covers of Purple Rain and Communication Breakdown. In January 2002, Novoselic performed backing vocals for a non-album track titled Walking a Line, later released on a special edition of the band's album One by One. During the encore of the Foo Fighters' secret show at Palladino in Tarzana, California, on December 22nd, 2010, the band, with Grohl on drums, was joined on stage by Novoselic and the band's live guitarist Pat Smear for a version of Nirvana's Marigold, a 1992 Grohl original, which was a B-side on Nirvana's Heart-Shaped Box, the first single from In Utero. Novoselic also recorded bass and accordion on the song I Should Have Known, appearing on Foo Fighters' 7th studio album, Wasting Light. On December 5th, Novoselic, in 2017, he joined Foo Fighters on stage at Matthew Knight Arena in Eugene, Oregon, to play bass guitar on Big Me, a song off Foo Fighters' debut album, Foo Fighters. The next bassist is Duff McKagan. Duff McKagan needs no introduction. I don't have to play Sweet Child of Mine because everyone knows the bass line. He's sometimes credited as Duff Rose McKagan, who is an American multi-instrumentalist singer, songwriter, and author, best known for his 12-year tenure with the hard rock band GNR, with whom he achieved worldwide success in the late 80s and early 90s. Duff has been part and associated with Velvet Revolver, Mad for the Racket, Neurotic Outsiders, The Farts, Walking Papers, and Loaded. At the tender age of 16, the Fastbacks hired him on as their drummer, giving him his first shot in developing Seattle rock. With the Seattle rock scene. He left the band towards the end of 1981 and began playing in countless other punk combos in the area. The most influential is The Farts, which never made it very far, but were the grunge influencers for Mudhoney. You're laughing.
Well, I'm not sure. What were you
The farts
saying?
didn't go far.
Yeah, the farts didn't go far.
Well, that's probably good.
Here's another one.
You would want a pervasive kind of odor.
Here's another one for you, Ian.
Yeah, sure.
Duff also worked with Iggy Pop and has a solo career.
Well, so there's the farts.
Yeah, so while McKagan enjoyed the gigs, he was working hard. He tried his luck in Los Angeles, and after a few years of playing in the
Nobody
Northwest,
wanted the farts, right?
upon moving to town, he met future GNR founders Slash, Steve Adler, and decided to form a trio with the others called Road Crew. The band gave them a kind of visibility they craved, but upon meeting Indiana transplants Izzy Stradlin and Axl Rose, the five flirted with the idea of combining their forces until finally Guns N' Roses became a reality. The next bassist was one of my supergroup bassists. No hidden secret here. He was known as one of the best bassists back in the 80s for metal, and that is none other than Steve Harris. He is the founder of the long-time running heavy metal outfit known as Iron Maiden. He is born in London on March 12, 1957. Highly touted soccer player in his youth, he gave up his sporting career to pursue his musical aspirations, forming Iron Maiden in 1976. Through the group's 1979 debut album, The Soundhouse Tapes, that reflected their punk inspiration, their self-titled 1980 full-length Embraced Metal album, which was earning a top 5 hit at home. Harris composed much of Maiden's material, drawing upon mythology and the occult to write hard rock epics like The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, Children of the Dam, and The Number of the Beast. The 1981 edition of vocalist Bruce Dickinson, who was also the pilot for the band, further solidified the band's position at the forefront of the new wave of British heavy metal, and throughout the 1980s, Iron Maiden enjoyed a huge following at home and abroad, despite almost no mainstream media attention. So that's not bad, eh?
Not bad at all.
Yeah. So, next one here that we have is a very interesting artist, and we're going to play it. Mike Dirnt. That was a song Longview, which most of you would know. So, born Michael Ryan Pritchard, and is known as Mike Dirnt, the bassist for the American punk rock band Green Day. Mike grew up with a difficult upbringing, where family was not as supportive as one would have hoped. With a lot of disappointment and sadness while being a young adolescent, leaving home when he was 15 to live out of his truck. He then rented a room in Billy's mom's house, and later Mike went to school to play in a band called Sweet Children, which then became Green Day, of course. He supported himself by working as a cook. Mike almost didn't graduate from high school because his mother refused to sign one of his mandatory attendance forms. He says, I took my mom aside. I said, this is how it's going to be. And basically, he had nothing else better to do but succeed. Mike had a troubled past and went through a lot of interesting ups and downs, but has found his inspiration with Green Day. And as you know, Welcome to Paradise is one of the songs that inspired him to move on and to move forward. Another one of the bassists that we all love and know is Michael Anthony. One of his bass lines you could hear is with the song Running with the Devil. He is the known bassist of Van Halen. Currently is the former bassist of Van Halen, but things can change like the weather. It's not an exact science. Out of all the band members that have passed through Van Halen, Michael Anthony gets the least amount of recognition. Having been the most loyal to both Eddie and Alex, Michael seems to be a distant memory even when he was there. Growing up, Michael inherited his interest in music from his father, a trumpet player. As a youngster, Michael Anthony had picked up the trumpet himself before discovering rock and roll and switching to guitar, and then later, the bass. Upon relocating to California with his family, Michael Anthony began playing in a variety of local rock bands. The early 70s saw Anthony play in a trio called Snake, for which Anthony was also doubled on as lead vocals. It was during this time that Anthony attended Pasadena City College, and it was in the music theory class that he met drummer Alex Van Halen, who along with his brother, guitarist Eddie, played in a band called Mammoth. The brothers began to borrow Anthony's PA for gigs, and soon after invited to join their group. They had already enlisted a charismatic singer by the name of David Lee Roth. Although Anthony's days as lead singer were over, he was responsible for all the group's impressive backing and harmony vocals. Along with Eddie and Alex, Michael is the only other member to appear on all of Van Halen's albums, and right now he is the bassist for Sammy Hagar's band called Sammy Hagar and the Circle. So at least he found himself some good stuff. Next one here is a little bit of Canadian content. Melissa Ofdermar. She's the bassist and was a brief bassist for two of the biggest alternative rock group of the 90s, Hole and Smashing Pumpkins. Before launching a solo career during the early 21st century, she was born March 17, 1972 in Montreal, Canada. Her mother, Linda Gabriel, was one of Montreal's first female rock DJs. Ofdermar started in her music career by playing bass in local outfits, including Tinker. But the course of her musical career was inadvertently changed due to a thrown bottle. Ofdermar, she was at some friends and went to see the Smashing Pumpkins on one of their first Canadian tours, and one of her friends in the audience threw a bottle on stage. Ofdermar made it a point to apologize to Pumpkins lead singer Billy Corgan for the incident. Soon the two got talking, and a friendship was born. In 1994, Corgan helped out the longtime friend Courtney Love, who was in need of a bassist. Ofdermar was introduced and landed a gig as Hole's bassist. After Hole's world tour wrapped up in support of their breakthrough release, Live Through This, Corgan helped Ofdermar a spot on the 1997 solo release by X-Car leader Rick Ocasek, Troublizing, which Corgan produced as well. After a brief U.S. tour wrapped up, which saw Ofdermar take Ben's Orr spot to sing Drive each night, the bassist returned to Hole, who finished up work on their third full-length album. 1998's Celebrity Skin, on which Corgan served as a consultant. Once the album's tour wound down, Corgan came a-calling once more, this time inviting Ofdermar to join the Smashing Pumpkins. That's not bad, right?
Not bad.
Next one that we have, I'll play the bass line, and I'm going to end it off with him.
Yeah.
So here we go. I don't think he needs any introduction, but here we go. So, John Deacon, born on August 19th, 1951 in Leicester, England. Deacon began playing the guitar in the early 60s before joining his first band, Opposition, in 1965. The following year, he switched to the bass guitar, and the group changed their name to the New Opposition, one of the most underrated
Spinal Tap, the originals, the new originals.
So, in my opinion, Deacon is one of the most underrated bass players in our rock and roll time. Queen had some colorful characters in the band, but the quiet, reserved member was John, who was way ahead in our time when it came to bass techniques. Although he would often remain in the background, Deacon proved to be as talented as his bandmates when it came to songwriting, and he penned some of the band's biggest hits. In late 1970, Deacon caught an early gig by Queen at a nearby college, yet left unimpressed. A few months later, he was introduced to Queen's drummer, Roger Taylor, who convinced the bassist to try out the band, which led to his joining in January of 1971. Queen signed a recording contract with EMI shortly thereafter, but it wouldn't be until 1973 that they would release their self-titled debut, on which the bassist is listed as Deacon John. It would take Deacon a few releases before he began to contribute songs to the group, but the wait was worth it, as he subsequently wrote or co-penned such Queen classics as Stone Cold Crazy, You're My Best Friend, and Spread Your Wings. Deacon's crowning songwriting achievement would come on Queen's 1980 release, The Game, an album which saw the band experiment with a variety of musical styles and sounds, the first release on which synthesizers were permitted to be used. Deacon had long wanted to write a song that was in the style of funk disco, and he more than delivered with Another One Bites the Dust, an infectious bass-propelled ditty that went on to become one of the year's biggest crossover hits. He continued to pen songs for Queen, Need Your Loving Tonight, I Want to Break Free, Friends Will Be Friends, so on and so on. Deacon also supplied bass to a few unfinished tracks that Freddie Mercury left behind before his death, which were finished off and issued under the title of Made in Heaven in 1985. Deacon has subsequently retired from the music business entirely, failing to even show up with his Queen bandmates in 2001 for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame induction ceremony. So that is my list of bassists, ladies and gentlemen.
Interesting range.
And
Wonderful.
are you hungry?
I am hungry for what?
Some Italian food?
Like maybe a posto locale you're thinking of?
Posto Locale, located in Little Italy, the heart of Little Italy in Ottawa. For a wonderful experience, go see Chef Amir at postolocale.com.
I'm off. Let's get going.
Let's get going. So,
I'm starting the car right now.
you're starting a car right now.
With
So,
that in mind,
I'm Ferris Kennedy.
I'm Dr. Ian Clark.
I'm Stephen Wheeler.
Have a good night.
Adios.